Today, we are speaking with Adrian Bollard with A&B Energy Solutions here in Airdrie.
We're going to talk to them about energy audits. What are they? And answering some of the questions you might have. First question is, what is an energy audit? Energy audit.
An energy audit is an assessment done of a house, and it gives the gigajoule energy requirement of a house over a year based on its heating, lighting, and it's done with the context of with the energy upgrade reports that's part of it to show you what the lowest hanging fruit is if you were to make some retrofits to your house, your attic, putting in triple glazed windows or a new, more efficient furnace, and it gives you can tell your biggest bang for your buck just by looking at the report. Say, oh, we can save 30 gigajoule just by doing that, and the price per gigajoule is actually much better value to put the solar on the roof and maybe reduce 30 gigajoule off the number than it is to put in triple glazed windows at $40,000 or something like that.
Are energy audits free?
Yes and no. So there is a fee, but the fee is covered for people under the Greener Homes Grant Program. You get a $5,000 grant, but you also actually end up getting $5,600 because they rebate $600 towards the fees for the energy audit. The actual fee for an energy audit, there's two. There's a pre-retrofit and a pro-retrofit exam that gets done, and the fee can be $600 to $700. But by and large, either most or 90% of that is covered with the programs, whether it's a SEEP program or a government NRCan Greener Homes Grant or loan.
And then what are those two different ones? Like, what are you doing at both of those?
For the Greener Homes, you can access $5,000 grant and you can access a 10-year interest-free loan for up to $40,000. The SEEP program is a Clean Energy Improvement Program. The City of Calgary operates one. The City of Edmonton operates one. Airdrie is bringing in one in the next couple of months. And basically, you can access funding for, let's say, solar panels or insulation, and you can pay it back, add it to your property taxes over 25 years at a low interest rate. So it makes the payment really minimal. And especially for something like solar panels, where you're getting a payback pretty much from day one with reduced or even zero electricity bills.
And how can you do an energy audit?
An energy audit has to be done by a licensed energy advisor. They're licensed by Natural Resource Canada, and you can go through there's a number of service organizations around, and there's lots in Calgary and all the other major cities, and you make an appointment for an energy advisor to come to your house. It takes about 2 to 3 hours for the energy advisor to do an assessment of your house, and basically from basement to attic, they're checking the insulation levels, they're checking the quality of the windows, the standard of the walls, the air tightness of the house, the efficiency of the furnace and hot water system. All that information is entered into software, and it spews out a number in gigajoules, and that's, let's say, 95 gigajoules in this case. And that 95 is basically the amount of energy in both gas and electricity to heat the house, heat hot water.
Mentioned that there was 2 different audits, though, that happens, a pre and
a post audit.
Those.
So basically, the first one is that full assessment that I just described, up to 2-3 hours of data collection around the house. Okay. Then just say the person goes ahead and they get new windows put in and they upgrade to high-end triple glazed windows with insulated spacers and argon gas and low E coverings on the glass. And now they have a more airtight house because the windows arguably are going to be much better performing from leaking in air. The insulation value could go from R2 on an older double glazed window to R5 or 6 with a brand new high-end triple glazed windows. Mm-hmm. And then in order to access the grant, to get your money back from NRCan or from the C programs, they have to get a second NRGuide test done where the evaluator comes back. He reassesses the house based on the changes. So he'll look at all the new windows that went in, take the details of the new qualities and evaluations of how that window would perform in the modeling. And so just say your house was 150 gigajoule before you put in your triple glazed windows, the energy advisor comes back and now you're at 135 gigajoules because you're saving so much heat with your new windows. Mm-hmm. Plus, because we do a blower door test at the front door, and that measures how much leakiness of air is oozing through your house from the wind coming in this way to warm air being blown out your house on that side. Okay. And because the new windows are arguably going to be much more airtight, the blower door test might go from 5 air changes per hour down to 3 air changes per hour. And that in itself puts a lot less work on your furnace. So now your furnace has less work to do over the year too. And all that gets remodeled into the second one. So you might go from 150 gigajoules to 135 just by putting in the triple glazed windows. And then the next upgrade, maybe in a couple of years' time, you might join a seat program and you put up solar panels, and your 135 goes down to 80 because your solar panels are producing 40 or 50 gigajoules of energy a year, and that gets taken off the energy requirement for the house. And then you put in attic insulation and you drop another 10 gigajoules, and slowly but surely as you drop it, and eventually you may even get to zero, and then your house is officially a net zero house.
And now what about the people who are do-it-yourselfers? Are they able to go and buy these more energy efficient windows, install them themselves, and then have you come back and test, or no, it has to be installed by a professional? And now what about the people who are do-it-yourselfers? Are they able to go and buy these more energy efficient windows, install them themselves, and then have you come back and test, or no, it has to be installed by a professional? And now what about the people who are do-it-yourselfers? Are they able to go and buy these more energy efficient windows, install them themselves, and then have you come back and test, or no, it has to be installed by a professional?
And depends on the conditions of the grant program. The Greener Homes grant would have to be done by a professional. There are some allowances for DIYers and weekend warriors where they can access caulking and stuff and get refunds for up to $1,000 for installation. So you're allowed to do some jobs yourself, but something like windows or solar panels can't be a DIY. It has to be professionally installed, and you have to have official invoices and get your grant back based on the evidence of the invoices and the work done that way.
And then how much of a difference does the energy guide have to come in? So you're saying if it was at 150 and it went to 135, how about if you had these installments done and you've only saved 10? Would you still get the grant money, or is there a minimum or maximum? Or
no, it's not based on how much it drops. It's just it's going to drop because you're going from double glaze to triple glaze. So just there's a natural energy benefit from having the new windows. But the beauty of the report, the Energy Guide reports and the upgrade reports that it gives you, it shows you, it models the house as it is on the day that they first come for that first test. And then you say the things you're interested in doing. You're planning on putting in new windows. You're planning on upgrading your attic insulation or putting up solar. So they're your things that are kind of rolling around in your head. The beauty of the software, we can model the house as if it did already have each of those features. And you can see which is going to have the biggest bang for your buck. Like the solar panels might reduce the gigajoules by 40. The windows might reduce it by 15. And the attic insulation might reduce it by 20. And yet the attic insulation is only $1,500. And you can make 20 gigajoules of a difference. So that obviously might be the lowest hanging fruit. And that might be your first starting point for project number 1. Project number 2 might be the solar, because that makes the biggest bang for your buck at that point in time. And a lot of people think they need to upgrade the windows. But going from R2 to R4 or 5, if it's going to cost $40,000, it may not be the most efficient way. At some point in time, it makes sense to get done. But it's not necessarily the lowest hanging fruit that people think, oh, I need to upgrade the windows in the house. But things that are out of sight, like the attic insulation, may well be far more beneficial in terms of far more energy reduction and at a fraction of the cost.
And so the person who's coming in to do the energy audit would be able to walk me through what would be the best bang for my buck, what I should be doing.
Exactly, yeah. And the reports that get issued and come out, it shows pie charts showing how the energy is used. Typically most houses, about half the energy required is just for heating. That's just the nature of living in Alberta. And then, but it also, because that's such a big part of the energy requirement for a house, the next pie chart is actually where the heat is lost from your house. So it says my attic is really well insulated, so I'm only using 4% of my heat through my attic. The main walls is only regular 2x6 walls, so I'm losing 34% of my heat through the main walls. But if I get the opportunity at some stage where either down the road it's time to update the siding, or in the meantime, if a hailstorm splatters the house and I have to replace my siding anyway, that's a really good opportunity to add 2 inches of rigid foam insulation to the outside of the house, add your siding to the outside of the insulation, and all of a sudden that 34% of heat loss might drop to 5 or 6%. And it's an easy way at a time of replacing siding for whatever reason to add those 2 inches of insulation, Because at the moment, if I was on a cold day, I had a thermal camera, you would see each stud as if I had a stud finder, because they'd be blue, where the insulation is would be pink or orange on the heat color graph. But wood is only R1 per inch. So you've got R6 where the stud is, and you have R20 where the insulation is. So overall, the wall averages, let's say, to R17 or R16 as an entire structure. But if you added R10 on the outside, that gets rid of the cold bridging that takes place at the studs. And all of a sudden, the performance of the wall as a structure goes way up. Okay. And you could have a wall that's now R26, R27, and that cold bridging that happens at the wood studs is now taken out of the equation. And that can be, for this particular house, that would be the next major project to tackle, would be to double insulate the walls.
So if you did have hail damage and the insurance already has to come in to replace the siding, it would be probably a good idea to have an energy audit come in, because would that fall under the grant money because you're already getting...
You can get grant money for insulating walls, but it tends to be, let's say, if your siding needs to be replaced ASAP, it's something you just need to, the insurance will cover replacing the siding. So you would be on foot for the bill to add the extra insulation at the time. Okay. But insulation itself is relatively cheap per square foot. So it's not a major expense. Okay. And it's just such a good opportunity to double insulate the wall at that point in time that it'd be a shame to let that opportunity come and go and end up with the same insulation value on the wall.
And my other question would be, you were saying how it can change from the time that you do it. So I guess what I'm saying is, when you come in and do the first initial energy audit and say it takes me, it's springtime and it takes me till the winter for me to finish all of it, and I have you come back in to do the post, does that affect the difference in climate outside and weather conditions? Does that affect it at all, or no?
No, the software takes everything into account. It's looking at the house over an entire year. So it's looking at a snapshot in time. But the furnace is still going to be the same, 90% efficient furnace. All the data, the insulation value in the attic is the same, the walls is the same, and the windows may have changed if that was the upgrade. So they're the only differences that will affect the actual output on the computer software.
If you already, say, have a house that you've done some energy efficiency updates to, will that affect your audit and maybe the rebate that you would get?
No, because there's still always room for improvement. Unless you're already at a net zero house, there's still room for improvement. So, if you've done some of the low-hanging fruit, let's say you've added insulation in your attic to bring it up to R50 or R60. Yeah, there's arguably, windows, walls, air tightness. Maybe your furnace is an 80% efficient 40-year-old furnace, and that could be a 96% efficient modern day condensing furnace. So there's you could say almost 20% in your gas usage, just going from an outdated furnace that works at 80% efficiency to a new modern juice draft.
Okay. Is there anything that would restrict you, that you'd be unable to do a home audit?
There's certain things that can restrict you within what you can do. If your house is a 1960s house and it has vermiculite in the attic, so before we do the blower door test to check the air leakiness of the house, on those occasions, we won't actually run the test, because as we negatively pressurize the house, we could be bringing in asbestos that's in the vermiculite down through the fittings and into the house. So from those occasions, certain parts of it will be not applicable because vermiculite was found, but we can still base it on this computer has thousands of homes already in its software bank. And when it works out an estimate of what the house would be for its attic insulation based on the year, or the air tightness based on all those other qualities and the time frame of the house, it gives you a pretty good average of what the house would actually be without doing the test. Okay. But ideally, if we can do the test and get actual hard numbers, all the better.
Okay, perfect. And when do you perform the energy audit?
So before you start doing your energy retrofits, so if you're planning on replacing your windows, planning on putting on solar on your roof, or just thinking about, so in order to access most of the financing and the grants and the cheap financing through the local governments and stuff, most of them will require an energy retrofit at the outset of that process as part of your application. And once you move forward, then I say they come back, we do the second follow-up test. But it also gives you really good advice about, instead of spending maybe $40,000 on the window, which you thought you needed to do right from the bat, that spending a fraction of that insulating the attic will make even more difference to the energy efficiency of the house and reduce the heating load of the house without spending near as much money. So it helps identify that best bang for your buck. And say a first thing to do is actually increase the attic insulation. Second thing might be to increase the air tightness. And maybe third or fourth down the line might be put in the new triple glazed windows.
Right.
But it shouldn't necessarily be the first thing, because there's some low hanging fruit that's a fraction of the cost that you can do next week and will save you even more energy, save you more gas every month that you need to pay, and make a bigger difference to the actual gigajoule rating on your Energy Audit report.
Perfect. And why are the energy audits necessary?
Well, they're necessary in order to participate in most of those grant programs and those government financing programs. The new one coming in for Airdrie, the CEAP program, which is the Clean Energy Improvement Program, will require an Energy test be done at the outset and post a retrofit. But I say even not just to satisfy the requirements of the financing, but also just to give you as a homeowner what's the most logical and identifying the low-hanging fruit. And the energy upgrade report will give you a bar chart showing your house right now, and it'll pretend your house already has the upgrades and model the house as if you did have the triple glazed windows, as if you did have solar, as if you did improve the air tightness of your house. And then you see all those bar graphs, existing and potential, existing and potential, existing and potential. And you can see in hard numbers really accurately how the house will perform with the new windows, with the upgraded attic insulation, with the upgraded air tightness. And then it helps you make decisions. Oh, we can save 10 gigajoule for $1,000. That's only $100 to save a gigajoule of energy requirement, and low-hanging fruit. And then you can just go right to that and right to this one. And then the next one, you might just identify it based on the cost of to implement it versus the cost of, or the benefits of energy improvement. And then you can break it down that way. And that can be your order of priority of lowest hanging fruit, and then next big project. And maybe the windows, what you thought you were going to do this year, you might say, oh, maybe that can wait till 2-3 years out, that we've got some other projects that we should work on first.
Right.
And that will reduce the heating load of your house even more for a lot less money.
And say you got an energy audit and say the CEAP program comes into Airdrie, can you use that energy audit, or do they have to redo the energy audit again? How long is it valid for?
If there's been no other changes to the house, again, the Airdrie CEAP program is just in its infancy. It's still only to be coming out in the next few months. So all that detail will be in the fine print,
Okay.
and we can see what the requirements are. But sometimes I would say maybe if you're going to participate in that program, hold off, see what the requirements are. And because they may even have a funding to pay for the energy audit in the first place. So you might as well access that funding. Green Your Homes Grant, it gives you up to $5,000, but it actually pays out up to $5,600 because they're giving you an extra $600 towards the cost of getting the energy audit done.
Right. Makes sense. Which that program is ending March, correct?
Yes. So far, I believe, certainly from the grant perspective, but as far as I know, the $40,000 interest-free 10-year loan is still going to be on the market.
Okay.
So, I keep an eye out for a news report or the NRCan website for how that actually pans out.
Okay. And are all energy audit companies the same? Does it matter who you choose?
Typically, when it comes to looking at contractors, I'm a great believer in Google reviews because it can be a really good indicator of customer services. The actual quality of the Energy Audit report is strongly regulated by NRCan, Natural Resource Canada, and all the people that perform it, the energy advisors, have to be licensed by Natural Resource Canada. So the actual report quality and the details shouldn't really vary much from one energy advisor to the other, or from one energy advising company to another. What may vary is cost, maybe vary a little bit, or the customer service level. But by and large, because it's a tightly regulated industry by federal government, that the actual report itself should be identical, and it shouldn't vary any more than 5% from one energy advisor taking the data input to the next person.
Because they're all using the same system.
Exactly. It's all government-issued software, government-issued training. Well, the training is not government-issued, but the licensing and the examinations are all federally regulated.
I hope that's answered all of your questions.
And if it hasn't, we've left Adrian's and our contacts below. Reach out anytime.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.